Sonic the Hedgehog. What does that mean to you? Are you a huge Sonic fan and you think of vibrant games and insane speeds? Maybe you hate Sonic and you think of furries and being taken for a wild ride. Or maybe you just think the games are mediocre and you want to tell me about how much better Mario is. Whatever it is, I'm going to talk about why Sonic means so much to me. My goal here is to go a little deeper, and even if you're a die-hard Mario fan, hopefully by the end of this you can understand the respect for Sonic a little more. Honestly, Sonic Frontiers is what's motivating me to talk about this. Other than Sonic Mania, which has seemed like a fluke, it has been hard to take Sonic seriously for a while. Ian Flynn, the writer of some incredible arcs in the Sonic comics, has finally been brought in to give some fucking credibility to the series again. His work on Sonic Frontiers has been nothing short of inspiring. I'll get back to that though. The best way to start is to talk about the early classics, which, of course, I played as a kid. Sonic 1 was my first Sonic game, but it was Sonic 2 that I spent the most time with. So, why did Sonic in particular leave such an impact on me? A lot of it comes down to the visuals and audio, the characters and the world. Sonic has always been a series with striking, gorgeous colors, eye-catching backgrounds, and a high-energy soundtrack that did its best to be early dance or club music, I swear. Sonic's sense of speed and the momentum-based gameplay just clicked with me on a level that Mario did not. Especially as a kid, when I didn't really think about it, I just let myself be blown away by the setting. It's not to say I didn't like Mario. The rivalry was fun, but I absolutely played and loved both series. Sonic just resonated on a deeper level with me. But I want to clarify this because of course Mario is going to come up a lot as a comparison. I am by no means saying Mario is bad. So a major difference between the two is how they approach level design and world building, and this impacts the core of the gameplay experience as well. Sonic, to me, offers much more of an open world experience, with multiple routes to take, whereas Mario offers more of an obstacle course feeling of tight, constructed platforming challenges you just have to beat. With Sonic's momentum and vertical oriented stages, you can just fly through many challenges and just kind of move all around the stage. And I admit, this may make Mario a better game, but that's what I'm trying to explain. Sonic offered more immersion because it felt less like a tightly constructed obstacle course of platforming challenges. It felt more like a world I was exploring, whereas Mario felt like a level. I would have fun as a kid exploring Sonic's levels to find secrets, even aside from trying to actually complete the stage or have a goal. Just seeing what I'd see if I jumped to the top of a cliff or something like that. Going along with this, I want to clarify that there is an element of jankiness to most Sonic games that I actually like. The momentum-based physics often break or end up in some weird situations, but that makes it a lot of fun to just mess around with, purely for the sake of tinkering with it. These elements meant I spent more time in the games simply playing for the sake of playing and exploring, sometimes not even caring if I'd max out a timer and not beat a stage. I was more immersed in the world. Moving on with the link to a better feeling of a world, Sonic 3 and Knuckles really added to this sensation just by the nature of their cutscenes. Not having any dialogue, but still stages having clear transitions from one to the next, and events that happened as you explored the stages really made it feel, again, like a world and sequence of connected events that I was seeing play out. Characters that had lives where I was seeing things happen and how they dealt with it. Knuckles even has an intro where he's just trying to chill and live his life, and then Robotnik comes around and ruins his day. There was also just something really appealing to me about Sonic character designs. Probably goes along with the 90s extreme design, but I liked a lot of the sleek designs characters had, with vibrant colors and slick angles. I'm going to mention here that two of my favorite characters for that are Knuckles and Knack. Vibrant red with the sleek dreadlocks but sharp eyes for Knuckles, and a lot of sharp angular designs and deep purples for Knack. Even Knuckles started out using a lot of traps, so there was a clever personality there I always liked as well. And Knuckles. Man, Knuckles. If I've ever had a man crush on a character, it was this dude. For one, I've always liked his portrayal more as a clever but naive loner. His reliance on traps in Sonic 3 shows a cleverness, but the loner part as being the lone guardian of Angel Island meant he was naive and didn't know much about the world beyond his own island, which is why he fell for Robotnik lying to him about Sonic in the first place. This was the era before Knuckles became a dumb meathead,
Then my delicious whipped cream filling will shoot out like toothpaste.
and it's the reason I've always liked him. As well, I've always liked how Sonic 3 let you explore the ancient culture of Angel Island, including what that meant for Knuckles being a lone echidna. Knuckles being able to glide and climb also meant it was a lot of fun just to explore stages with no real directive in mind either. It was a lot of pure freedom. Knuckles being this kind of Caribbean inspired character was an aesthetic I always liked. People like that have always been really cool to me. I'm a fanboy for Bob Marley even, and not just for the weed. All of this sense of world building really came to a head for me with the Sonic Adventure series on Dreamcast, particularly Sonic Adventure 1, but also SA2. I was still young enough when these games were new to be pretty impressionable as well. All of the character focus, the world focus, and yes, even the jank was at play in Sonic Adventure. The thing about Sonic is that many mascot characters, especially at the time, were more focused on strict obstacle course levels with a pretty bare bones story. Sonic did the opposite, and that stood out for me. The story even tried to cover some relatively dark and mature themes, with the Echidna tribe's Warhawk nature, for example. Sonic Adventure had something I love about minigames from this era. You can find it in games like Mischief Makers and Space Station Silicon Valley, just to name a few examples. It's the jank I mentioned before. It was very experimental. Mario was extremely polished, but Sonic was trying all kinds of different things, for better or for worse, that other mascot games weren't even attempting. The story was a part of that exploration of jank. Speaking of characters, now's as good a time as any to talk about the elephant, or the cat, in the room. Yes, Big the Cat. Used to be one of the most hated mainstream gaming characters, before he was readjusted as a meme character in modern times. Of course, I love his meme status, but I was naming myself after him even in the Dreamcast days. I'll take a moment to defend him and explain why I liked him so much. Going along with the jank, Big the Cat was just a cool, chill character. Like some other cats, Big was just a lazy dude that wanted to relax all day. I liked him because he was so out of place among the Sonic cast, but he fit in perfectly as a resident just trying to live in the world. His story didn't even have anything to do with trying to save the world. He was barely involved. He just wanted his friend back so he could go back to fishing all day. For what it's worth, I agree that mandatory fishing to beat SA1 was dumb. Big is best as he's been used recently, an optional side character. Big's storyline in SA1 wouldn't have been so reviled if you didn't have to do it to get the final story with Supersonic, and instead it was optional like the Chow content was. SA1 also gave us surprisingly deep character development in Tails' story arc and Gamma's story arc. Tails actually gets to step out of Sonic's shadow and find himself, especially at the end when he has to face off against Eggman by himself. And Gamma? Man, his story made me emotional. His story of AI becoming self-aware and questioning his purpose and how to actually help people. Man, it's the kind of stuff you typically have to look to RPGs for. Adventure also gave us the hubs, which, man, brought the whole world to life. Cybershell did a whole video on this, but it was full of NPCs living their daily lives, and the way they responded to each character was different, not to mention different dialogue depending on where you were in the story's timeline as well. There was something very ambient to the music in hubs as well, especially Mystic Ruins. Knuckles really sold this for me as I spent a lot of time just having fun with the physics combined with his ability to glide and climb. Mystic Ruins was very open and offered a lot of space to just climb up high and then just glide around enjoying the sights. This is also part of that jank. The momentum-based physics engine that was definitely broken made it a lot of fun to just move in the world, and very open hubs really let you enjoy breaking it. Having to go through hubs and actually find the levels continued the Sonic 3 tradition of having everything feel more connected, rather than like pure obstacle course levels as well. Sonic Adventure 2 streamlined this, with a more tightly controlled storyline and it cut the hubs, so it was overall more polished. But SA2 really leaned into the melodrama, with its storyline that was full of young adult darkness, and even some implied romance. And again, I was the perfect age for this, being a young teenager myself. Knuckles' portrayal was still at his best in these games, aided by his voice actors, Michael McGahern in SA1 and Scott Dreyer in SA2, as well as Hunted P's unique raps that often were told through Knuckles' point of view. In this era, Knuckles came across as more of that introspective loner type, instead of just an angry meathead. There was definitely something there to the implied romance with Rouge, and Knuckles was the only character to even get a hint of chemistry between both characters. Seriously, watch some of this scene.
Stop fooling around and give me back my emerald. What in the world? What?
I'm sorry if I hurt you.
So yeah, you can't tell me that the breathing in the start didn't sound like something slightly spicy either. That wasn't the only young adult theme in the series, though. Shadow, of course, was the source of much of the dark melodrama and an angst-filled storyline about finding himself and his purpose. But I was an angsty, emo, goth teenager, so it was perfect timing. His storyline concluded SA2 with an actually kind of emotional moment where he learns about Maria's true wishes in protecting humanity, and Sonic and company have a quieter moment of introspection about his sacrifice. Even Robotnik is just peacefully musing to himself. It's not just the dark themes, though. Sonic has always been incredible at just getting you hyped up, especially for final boss fights. Live and Learn is top tier for just hardcore pumped up energy. It was an epic feeling in a way that Power Rangers had been to me when I was younger. Just something that really had me going, hell yeah. These themes may have come across as corny or overly edgy these days, but that's just what I'm saying is the appeal. It's campy in just a really fun way, hitting some of the same edgy but fun notes as something like Devil May Cry. Moving on from that though, of course, I can't talk about Sonic Adventure without also mentioning the Chow Garden. To me, the Chow Gardens really added this feeling of an almost slice of life element to the world, and were a really nice break from constant levels. Being able to take characters normally just stuck on pure adrenaline gameplay and just relax for a bit with weird morphing Tamagotchi creatures felt refreshing. Again, the Chow were something to come back to the games for that wasn't just about beating the stages and pure gameplay. It was an element of pure jank and exploring what I could do just for the fun of it. So it all ties back into being immersed in the world. Chow would even get attached to individual characters and draw pictures of who they liked the most. After SA2, of course, Sonic fell into a long Dark Ages period.
Yeah, we're Sonic Heroes!
But there were some games here and there that broke it. I want to give a shout out to Sonic Rush on the DS for giving us Blaze and what I think is her best portrayal too. As in Rush, she was a really nice counterpart to Sonic, being more stoic but still driven and just as strong as he was. Rush also had an incredible soundtrack thanks to Hideki Naganuma's contribution, 100% bringing in the Jet Set Radio dance funk vibes he was known for. Which tracks because music has always been a strong suit for Sonic, and music does so much to inspire emotion. I got so hyped in so many stages throughout the series just due to the music. If I took the time to show you just how good Rush's OST consistently was, this video would be twice as long. But trust me, Sonic Rush is worth checking out just for the OST alone. If you didn't know, he really went places with some of the music. Check out this sample of music for the Sonic vs. Blaze boss fight.
Let's do it.
I'm not the only one that hears that, right? I'm surprised Sega's Sonic team let him do that. Guess it fits with the implied romance from SA2 as well, though. It's also better chemistry than some other romance Sonic has had. Mainline console games of this era were not being kind to Sonic, however, and this brings me back to the present and the appeal of Sonic Frontiers as well. While Sonic Mania, of course, is a return to golden form, people don't really seem to contest that Mania is great. So I really want to talk more about Frontiers, because Frontiers has been somewhat controversial and has more glaring flaws. So why am I so hopeful about a game that is clearly still flawed and rushed in its own right? Because Frontiers is bringing back all of the jank, all of the world exploration, melodrama, and character development that I loved from Sonic 3 and Adventure in particular. Characters are taking things seriously, without being afraid to still have memes and jokes, and not go too far with the serious tones. It's all self-aware, but in a good way, unlike the Saturday morning cartoon feeling of, say, Sonic Colors.
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me!
Open World Sonic is, to me, basically just what I already liked about Adventure Hubs in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It builds on the exploration element that was already there, and I trust Flynn to know how to handle the writing and characters. Flynn is certainly a lore master that understands the deep roots and branches of Sonic as a series. It's also just refreshing to see the characters talk to each other and have honest, heartfelt interactions. Tails' character arc of finding himself and even questioning his own inconsistency is great. And Knuckles finally gets to bring back his rivalry with Sonic and feel like a real character. Further, many of the flaws of Frontiers are due to the game being rushed and under-budgeted by Sega themselves. I think it's clear that if it were up to the actual dev staff and Ian Flynn, there would have been more time spent refining the game. So I am also hopeful that Frontiers being a success means that Sega lets them take their time more with any sequels to it, and what we get from here is even better. And as I was writing this, we did get that something better, with the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog unexpectedly dropping for April Fool's Day. This short visual novel murder mystery, with all its memes and sense of humor, is something that proves exactly what I've been trying to say. This new game, despite being an April Fool's joke, is full of fun character interactions and charming dialogue, and really just shows how the devs had fun writing out the characters. It's all based around that core concept I've been explaining. The Sonic world and characters are just fun, and they can work in a variety of settings. That's what keeps me coming back. So that brings me to the end. Hopefully, if you were on the fence, or just outright disliked Sonic, you have a better understanding of why someone like me can still enjoy the series, flaws and all. That it is the jank and flaws that get me so immersed and attached to the series. That the characters just have a really unique appeal to them, and it's fun to experience the world with them. I am aware there are plenty of games I didn't talk about that still deserved it, but I'm not trying to review every game in the series. More, I hope I've explained the broad and consistent themes present in the series and characters that are why I love it so much. So what do you think? Agree with me? Disagree? I want to thank you for watching this whole thing. And I'm not just saying that for the clicks and views. I made this video because I honestly enjoy discussing the series, and a lot of these thoughts came from talking about it with friends. So leave comments, share the video, whatever, and I actually will read, and I'd love to hear further feedback.
Maybe I'll go home.